Welcome back to the smartest year ever, our quest to become the world's greatest conversationalists. My name is Gordy, and I was just wondering how far back in time would I have to go before no one could understand me and I couldn't understand them? In other words, how far back could I time travel and still be understood in English? Like and subscribe, please. If you haven't, I would appreciate that. I do this every single day, and I'd like to see you tomorrow. Let's get right into it, though, okay? So let's say you hopped into a time machine, you went back to medieval England. Would anyone understand you, or would you sound like a babbling lunatic in weird modern clothing and be accused of being a demon or something like that? Well, the answer depends on how far back you go. English isn't a fixed language, it's kind of a shapeshifter in that way, and it's been changing nonstop for over 1,400 years. The language we speak today is technically modern English, and the version that evolved after 1500 or so. That's what modern English is, and it even includes Shakespeare and the King James Bible and current TikTok slang that I have to Google search to understand how I should respond to comments. Like, are they making fun of me, or is this a good thing? I don't know. But if you traveled to, say, 1700, you'd be fine. You know, a few these and thous, maybe, but totally understandable. I don't know if Robinson Crusoe is a book that's from that era, and it's pretty easily understandable. A little bit wordy, but you can understand it. Even 1500s English, think like Elizabethan era, that sounds flowery and ornate, but it's still recognizably English. You know, you could get some Shakespeare of that range and stuff like that. But if you go back further than that, things start to crumble. Middle English was spoken from about 1100 to 1500. And I think at this point, you would start to struggle a lot in this range. So as kind of proof of it, I guess, like a phrase like this, and this is from the prologue of Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, and it says, "Juan that April with his shuras suta." All right, so if you understood what I just said, and here's it written, I'm probably pointing in the right direction. You know, Juan that April with his shuras suta. And that means when April with its sweet showers, ... Okay, you can kind of like hear some things, but a lot of it's tough, you know? And that's 1380, so we're around that range. I'm thinking it's going to get tough. So I would willingly admit that around this time period, I would have a ton of trouble. Like I'd be like, could you please speak slower? And you'd be like really leaning on context clues to figure out what they're saying. Like you see that April kind of stuff, right? And you see the shuras, and you're like, showers, all right, that works maybe. But the grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary of that era were all in transition, like heavily influenced by the Norman French after the 1066 invasion. So you now go back to 1100 or before 1100, and it seems like it's a pretty foreign language. And that's Old English, spoken from roughly 450 to 1100 AD. Think Beowulf. Like here's a sample of that. And I trying my best to actually pronounce this right. I watched a lot of videos on this. I'm hoping I'm nailing it, but let me know. What we Yardena in Yardagum. All right, so you can see it written. That's what we Yardena in Yardagum. And that was the opening line of Beowulf. And it sounds almost like Icelandic or something, but that was actually English. At this point, modern English, your modern English is completely unintelligible to the people around you. You'd be speaking gibberish, and they'd sound the same to you. So unless you said, you my listener, said, Gordy, I'm 1,000 years old. Of course I know that what we Yardena in Yardagum means, hey, we the Spear Danes in years gone by, then you probably wouldn't understand them and vice versa. So if you want the moment when English stops being English, somewhere around the year 1100 is your cutoff. Any earlier than that, and you're just completely confused. I'm already completely confused by the Beowulf time, you know, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Like maybe if you could have them write it down, which probably wouldn't work for most people. Maybe you could pick out some words, but I don't think so. And what caused the break? Well, several invasions and cultural shifts occurred. The Anglo-Saxons brought Old English, and the Vikings stirred in a little Norse. Then William the Conqueror showed up with the French, and by the time English reemerged from that tumultuous blender, it had transformed. You could totally argue that English is multiple languages stitched together. Germanic core, Norse loanwords, French elegance, Latin from the church and science. So it's really no wonder why it's so messy and so convoluted. It's still, and it's still mutating. It's still mutating. If you traveled 200 years into the future, odds are your English would sound slow, awkward, or outdated. Maybe even as weird as Chaucer sounds to us. And I bet we were just going to be writing in emojis at that point if we even write. Who knows? Just we're going backwards. We're going to hieroglyphs again. But so there you have it. If you traveled back to the year 1400, things are going to start getting very difficult around that point. And by 1100, you'll officially hit the point where no one understands your English and you won't understand theirs either. Thanks, as always, to my sources, which can be found in the YouTube description. And thank you to the YouTubers who helped teach me those old pronunciations of those varying periods of English. Please leave a comment in any language you want. Follow, rate, like, subscribe, share with someone who likes this kind of thing. Throw your comment in a weird translator that I have to figure out what language it is. I don't care. At Smartest Year Ever on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify for the full episodes. At Smartest Year Ever on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts for your daily clips. Those are the 1-minute ones. Go check those out now. In the meantime, stay curious and stay clever on our quest to become the world's greatest conversationalists. I will see you tomorrow in the Smartest Year Ever. Man, it's getting warm in here. I'm sweating.